Hey everyone, we are so excited. We are live here with our infamous Juice Plus rep. We have Heather. We're so excited. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me. Just going to get to know you a little bit more about Juice Plus and sourdough and all of your amazing things. She's a registered dietitian. So a little bit about Heather. She has been married for 29 years to her husband, Mark. They have three amazing sons. We have Nate, Connor, Carson. She has been faithfully taking Juice Plus for 19 years, been a representative with them the whole time. She's a graduate of University of Kentucky with a degree, and it's amazing what Juice Plus does. I can't wait for us to dive into that a little bit more, but just from dietary habits that it's able to help filter out some of the things we don't get in our food currently. So really excited to learn more about that. While she was pursuing her degree, she stayed active and was the president of her Delta 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 sorority. She moved to St. Louis in 1993 to complete her internship with Barnes. She's licensed, registered dietitian, and she has worked with many hospitals and nursing facilities within our area of St. Louis here. She received her master's in business from Webster University. Her and her team, Team Freedom, were promoted National Marketing Director in March of 2022. That is a huge accomplishment within that company. That's amazing. In addition to sharing health, education, and good food with others, Heather stays active with it, and she also participates in the American Diabetes Association, which is a cause super near and dear to my heart for those individuals. My dad was type 1 diabetic, so I'm very, very proud that you also are associated with that. She has owned a catering business for years, recently decided to focus primarily on more consulting with diet and obviously her wellness business with Juice Plus. So healthy meal prep is still a passion for her, and she keeps people on this one. She helps them to learn about sourdough, and it has amazing benefits, and we're going to learn more about that as she goes through this too. And her bread baking and gut health workshops, she feels very passionate about her mission and inspiring others to lead a healthy and happy life. So welcome, Heather. Thank you so much. Like I said, it has been such a joy as we've gotten ready for this interview and just getting to chat with you and learn a little bit more about you. So without further ado, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me. I love this. This is so fun, and you've just been so great to work with. And so it's been fun to get to know you better too. You know, I knew at age 16 I wanted to be a dietitian. I actually was noticing that how I ate and how I moved my body was affecting how I felt and how I looked. And my dad, he's a retired dentist. I said to him, you know, I would be interested in understanding more about this. And so he actually got me an appointment with a dietitian. One of his patients was a dietitian. She was lovely. And I was, came away with some, action items for myself. But I also was just like, gosh, this would just be a great way to help people, because I feel like when you feel good, you can do good. And it always pained me to see people that were struggling either with illness or some sort of disease state. And I just didn't want that to be that way for people. And I wanted to help in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you've been doing this for a while now. What still keeps that passion behind what you're doing? Like, what have you seen within the population and things like that that just continue to maintain that same passion?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's my love. Like I have to say, I love all things nutrition. I love learning. I love, the field is constantly changing. We're being faced with disease states that we've never even heard about in the past. The recommendations for what we need to eat in terms of fruits and vegetables has gone up. We're living in a more toxic world. And so I just feel like there's more and more need for this kind of help for people. Honestly, when I started working right out of college, I was in a hospital environment, and doctors didn't really refer to dietitians too easily. Like, we really had to say, hey, over here, we can help you. And so it's gotten to be much, much better in that way. And thankfully so. And so I love to get to know people on a personal level, obviously when they're sharing their health and what's going on with them. It's very personal, and I'm always honored to be a part of that journey. And then just to be able to, I feel like I can help give some simple tools to help move them, move the needle in the right direction.
Absolutely. In our practice, we see that all the time too, where it's, very frequently, people will come in and they're like, man, I can immediately tell whenever I've eaten something, all of my joints ache and things of that nature. And I love the awareness that's happening in our world right now, that we're able to see how food is directly impacting your mood, how you feel, how you sleep, and the importance of your gut. Like if you're, as you can probably attest, if your gut's not healthy, the entire rest of your body cannot be healthy. So I just think that is such a very cool thing that now we're getting to where people they're recognizing the benefit of actual healthy eating. They're paying attention to it, what's in their foods. And I love that that was maybe not a thing in the past, and now you've gotten to see all of that evolve and grow, and just how instrumental your specific job is, and just helping us to learn how to eat healthy, because that's not been a thing for majority of the American diet, unfortunately, right?
Sure,
So,
for sure.
You and your family have been using Juice Plus for almost 2 decades now, right? So how did you get started with Juice Plus?
Well, I was taught in school many years ago that food is medicine. And I very much believe that to be the case. And our body knows what to do with food. Food is powerful. And we need to get our nutrition from food and not a vitamin pill. Right. And so that is what I was taught all these years ago. And yet I was not a big lover personally of fruits and vegetables. I look back now and know I had some things going on with my gut. I used to deal with terrible IBS, a lot of joint inflammation. These are things I no longer deal with, but looking back on that journey, but really the catalyst for everything was having my boys. So we had 3 little boys, 1, 3, and 5, and they were picky eaters. And here as a mom and a dietitian, I knew exactly what to feed them. And yet I couldn't get them to do it. You just, the battle just goes on, right? They don't love the fruits and veggies or the variety that we need. And so sure, I could get them to eat a few strawberries or baby carrots or broccoli or something if they dipped it in ranch, but that bothered me. And I was looking to prevent the big stuff. I wanted to prevent the heart disease and the diabetes and the cancer and the things that ran in our family. And I wanted to do what I could to set them up for success. And we were a really pretty healthy family, but I wanted to keep it that way. And I also was already seeing that my 5-year-old was dealing with asthma, my middle son, ADD, and, they had a lot of ear infections, things like that. And I thought, gosh, I know this is playing a part in it. So I was introduced to Juice Plus, and it really made sense to me for 3 reasons. 1, it was a food product with a food label. 2, it's actually has a safety certification. So that gave me confidence to give it to my kids. And also that it is highly researched. And so I really dove into that research, and, we could sponsor kids for free. And really, I was just going to put my kids on it. And then that's when I said, well, gosh, if my husband and I can sponsor one of the boys, maybe we should. Had no idea really how much of a benefit it would provide to our whole family, at that time when I got started.
Absolutely. Would you mind just telling people a little bit more about what that sponsor, because I think it's such an incredible thing to just truly look at the health of our future generations. I think it's an amazing thing that Juice Plus does for our whole families.
Mm-hmm. I do too. This company's been around for 33 years. Wish I would have known about it before I was pregnant with my boys. However, I didn't. And that's okay. You start when you start, and it benefits you. But there was really a vision from our founder to help as many people, in the world be as healthy as possible. And so one way to do that was to get to help parents get their kids healthy. And so the bottom line is, if you as an adult, we have a very small product line, and I can share about that in a minute, but our foundational plant powders are a fruit, vegetable, and berry blend, and now a vegan omega blend that's no fish. If you take the foundational products, the fruit and vegetable and berry blend, or the fruit and vegetable blend, you as an adult can sponsor 1 child per order. And that child, as long as they're between the ages of 4 and now it's their 26th birthday, they receive free fruits and vegetables. So that's 20 different fruits and vegetables they're getting the nutrients of each day for free. 2 of my boys have been free for 19 years. And
Oh,
so I look back at that gift of what I've been able to give them, and it's made it extremely affordable. You know, that's one of my favorite parts about Juice Plus, honestly, is the cost. So, pretty neat program.
the cost and it actually tastes good. Like my kids actually like them. So I think that that's a big testament. Their palate's not always as sophisticated as we maybe would love. And the fact that they're going to still eat it and like it, like I think is a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's amazing how you can just pack all of that in there and it's one simple thing and additional things that we get. My husband, many of you guys who watch know that my husband is a farmer, and he doesn't grow for like human consumption. He grows for different factoring out and things of that nature. But what we always talk about is the quality of the food that we grow. We're unfortunately we have to grow food for so many, and farm ground is reducing time and time over again, that the quality of our food is not what it once was 10, 15, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. So the same nutrients that you would get from fruits and vegetables is not the same amount of nutrients nowadays, because there's just things that have countered into it, and we're producing for quantity and not necessarily quality. It doesn't negate the fact that I still, of course, love farmers and all the things that they do for us, but it's just not there. So we have to supplement that in some way and capacity to make up the same health value that you get from each meal. So I love that that's an option.
Well, I come from a farming family too, and I do love that we know, I mean, we have our own farmers, our own cranberry farmer, our own kale farmer, and they are adhering to very stringent practices, which I think is incredible. And honestly, the way Juice Plus is made gives me also such confidence to make sure that gets into my body every day, because it is picked at that nutritional ripeness when it, is nutritionally dense and then dehydrated at a low temperature, and we're also using the peels, the seeds, the cores where possible, and pulverizing. And so I always like to share that, about 80% of the vitamin C in an orange is in the peel. Well, you're probably not eating the peel, and I love oranges, but I'm not eating the peel. But in my Juice Plus, I am getting that. And so we're getting that extra nutrition when we can, use all pieces of the produce. So I think that's pretty cool.
That's really cool. Interestingly enough, my little girl and I, we just had a conversation about, are there people that eat the whole orange? I was like, you can, and I'm sure there are people out there. We just don't. And so I think it's funny that you mentioned that.
I love that.
There is health benefit to it for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, just a little bit of like side note. So you've worked in clinical hospital settings, et cetera. What are some of those like common conditions from a dietitian standpoint that you see that are recognized as things that potentially dietary changes could help and improve?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance. People are dealing with struggles with weight, increased hemoglobin A1C, so their blood sugar is high, higher cholesterol, a lot of autoimmune. And I'm sure, you're seeing the very same thing. And it also, I think what I see a lot too is people are on multiple medicines. And so they're then being prescribed other things to deal with the side effects of medicine number one, and that puts them on another medicine. And this all can really create a lot of issue, particularly as you talked about with our gut. And I think, gut health is getting more and more attention. We're learning more and more about gut health, thank goodness. 90% of our immune system, around 80% of our immune system, about 95% of the serotonin is made in our gut. And so if we can get our gut right, we can be better in all ways. And I think, honestly, most conversations that come to me do circle back to gut health.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And there are, even, just individuals like post-COVID, all of the new things that we're learning about and coming from, a lot of those things have had direct correlation with gut health and in a way to improve those types of either symptoms or even heal it altogether. So I just think it's really amazing. Some people are not aware of all of the things that directly impact it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. What patterns do you notice in families, like when it comes to nutrition and lifestyle? I have noticed things in certain areas, more rural, they maybe sometimes like like meat and potatoes, but then there's others that it definitely factors in. And when families eating all together, we notice different trends and different things that happen. So what have you noticed?
Well, for sure, families are passing on lifestyle habits, right? And so people talk about genetics a lot, but there's a lot to be said for, you know, it's what we learn. Like we tend to do things that we've learned, right? I think over programming of our schedules and, people struggling just with working multiple jobs, that's leading us to a situation where we're choosing convenience foods and more meals out, which we have less control of. We're getting a lot more chemicals and sugar into our diet. And then also, I feel like, and this is something we dealt with too, we had the same 5 fruits and vegetables in our refrigerators every single week. I mean, we just would just kind of go to the ones that you knew the kids would eat. You bought the grapes and the strawberries and, that kind of thing. And so then, we have our best intentions as parents to do well by ourselves and our children, and then we get busy and the produce goes bad, and then we have this cycle of guilt, and so I think convenience kicks in and families get in ruts. And so it is a lot of effort to eat well. It takes a lot of, it is a job, and it's not easy to do, but it can also be a lot of fun, and with intentionality, I think can be very successful and rewarding.
Yeah. What types of, like busy families, like what you're talking about, do you have any suggestions or any tips to how they can, like make that a little bit more streamlined, or is it just meal prep? Do you have any of those suggestions for them?
Yeah, I mean, I do think coming up with a plan and keeping it kind of simple. People try all these different recipes. And honestly, then you get all these ingredients in the house and you're like, oh my gosh, now I don't know what to do with this. And I'm not going to use that again. And, people get into these little kicks. And then, so I always say, let's just start, first of all, with it's not about perfection. Like, let's just start with 3 to 5 meals that you enjoy. And let's find some simple ones. And I'll recommend some of my favorite ones. And then we start there. Involve the family. If you can, if you have kids that are old enough to help you in the kitchen or go to the grocery store with you, or maybe find a recipe that they would like to be a part of, I think involving them in that process is awesome. I involved my kids as much as I could. I have 3 boys, but they kind of took to it. And I see them now in college and beyond, doing cooking and meal prep, which is exciting. I love to do things like grain bowls, making like sheet pan meals, doing a bunch of roasted veggies that you can later use on a salad or throw into a grain bowl. And so that just makes it, a little bit easier. And then I just say, focus on color. I'm not about what you should take out of your diet. I'm like, let's focus on what you should put in your diet. And if we get those things in, you're probably going to feel good and be satisfied. And it's going to push out some of the bad. And so as much color as we can get to our diet, I think is a great thing.
That is that's so true, right? Like the more colorful your plate is, the more nutrients that you're most likely getting from it, right?
And not Skittles. Not a plate of Skittles, even though those are colorful.
Fruit Loops doesn't count either.
Right.
Yeah, but my 9-year-old, he would probably be like, oh, it's Fruit Loops. Like, look at all this color. We're good. I think it's also interesting, like you talked about, like involving your family and kids and things of that nature. I always feel like I'm doing something right when one of my kids will be like, well, is this a protein, or is it like they're trying to start to figure out like, well, what is a protein? What is a carb? What is a fruit? Is this a fruit or is it a vegetable? Like, and I think that's a really interesting thing. Once again, my little girl this morning, she was talking about, she ate her orange, but she left her yogurt, and we were in a rush and we were heading to school, and she was like, I'm not getting my protein this morning. She's 6. She's going to be 7 here in just a couple of weeks. And I'm like, oh, sis, like you're right. We're not like, but I just don't have any other options for you. I said, snack, you've got your snack coming up, and that will give you some source of protein. But it's interesting. Like, in those realms that we're just talking, I don't even realize, but they're just absorbing so much that I'm not even aware of. So even just by how we present ourselves, I think another good tip that I like to share with patients and families is when you do go grocery shopping, primarily if you just stay on the perimeter of the grocery store, most of your healthy options are there. That's where our fresh meats and vegetables and fruits, and that's where you're going to find a lot of those things. So the perimeter of the store is typically your healthier options if you need to try to avoid those things that maybe deter us or aren't maybe the best choices. You can start to navigate in other realms too.
Oh, I agree. And I really think too, kids are going to do what we do more so than what we say. And so just being a good example in that area and involving them, I think is key. And so I love that. I love hearing the stories about your kids.
I have a lot of them. They are my heart and soul for sure. Okay, so let's talk sourdough. My mom loves to bake her own sourdough, and she's trying all sorts of different things. So, like, where did that come from for you?
Well, I love that our Juice Plus community does a lot of wellness events. And so honestly, our group here in Eureka, we host a couple of events every single month. And sometimes they're in people's homes. We do a lot of them at Sarah's on Central. We've done them in other locations, but it's just fun to bring people together to learn. And our model of our events is to try to teach something small, maybe do some sort of meal prep, either a salad in a jar, a healthy burrito in a jar, that kind of thing. And so we love just having events and bringing the community together to help learn. And okay, so wait, sorry, I got on a tangent. What was your original question?
I was about to say, I'm like, hold on. How do we learn about these events? Because first off,
I'll tell you about that. What was your original question? I'm like, hold on.
How did you get started with sourdough?
Sourdough. Okay.
Yes.
So the community started doing, there was a friend through the community out in Nebraska. She started doing some sourdough events. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that, but tied to gut health and education around gut health because there's gut health properties. And so I was like, I'm going to try this, but I got a bread machine for my wedding 29 years ago, and never used it. And so I spent a weekend a few years ago learning this sourdough. I have a 104-year-old mother, which is the start of making your sourdough. And I just kind of grabbed onto it. And I really have found this fun little rhythm. My classes are about an hour and a half. I get people started on the process of sourdough. I do a little bit of gut health education and why is sourdough gut friendly. And then we finish up the process. And I have just really had so much fun helping people. I definitely introduce people to the concept of plant powders in a capsule, and people can sample some of those products. We of course have a sample of warm bread, and I usually make a butter board, which is really yummy with it, and some yummy snack bites. But it's just been a fun way to teach people a skill. I love to be in the kitchen. I've catered for years. So I'm teaching about gut health, but also a skill of a way that they can make their own gut-friendly bread and have success in that. And that's just been, it's addicting, I will say. Once you get going on the sourdough, it's hard to turn back.
I was gonna say, I think my mom would agree. She's really taken off with it, and I love it because I get to benefit from it, and it's so yummy. She shares it with us, and I think it's such a cool little hobby, right? Like it's a healthy hobby. Unfortunately, unless you're out doing something, a lot of hobbies aren't necessarily ultra healthy, and so I do love that you're doing that and you're sharing it with everybody. And I love being around people, right? So the more times we can all come together and we're learning a little bit and we have fun and we get a nice tasty treat, like perfect. Like it's a win-win all the way around. So that
really is. There's 600 ways to make sourdough. So I always say, this is one way I'm going to teach you. And it is a very easy way, no scales. It's just really, really simple. You don't need a lot of tools. And I find that pretty much, I like to keep in touch with the people that come to my classes for a while afterwards, just so that I can help them to have success, because I really want them to be able to have success with future loaves beyond the one that they make and, when we're together. But it is, I think a lot of people just avoid bread because they feel like it's not good for them, or they don't feel so good after they eat it. And, the sourdough that we make has water, flour, and salt, and that's it. There's not the list of ingredients that you might find on your bread bag. And so it is just, and it's satisfying. It's kind of like when you keep something alive, or you take care of a plant, or, you make a loaf of sourdough. It's like, oh, I did that. And the enthusiasm hasn't died yet.
Okay, so you brought up like conventional bread, right? What most people are aware of. What are the properties? Is it just the simplicity of what is in sourdough, the three ingredients, or are there other parts from a conventional bread that make it not good for you?
Well, obviously, it's just those three ingredients, so you don't have, other artificial ingredients or preservatives. But also, it's the fermentation process. And so, I actually have a loaf going downstairs, and basically, it will just ferment overnight for about 18 to 24 hours. And the longer you let it ferment, the more that bacillus bacteria is in there. And so it's going to make it more gluten friendly. It's going to make it higher in protein, higher in fiber, lower in sugar. And you will have more of a sour taste the longer that it ferments. And so, yeah, I mean that, and you can buy good quality sourdough bread elsewhere, not everywhere though. I always tell people, look for, sometimes they add sour flavoring to make it taste sour, but it doesn't have the gut properties. And so, just be cognizant of that if you're purchasing it and not making it.
Okay, that is very good to know. Is there something like on a label that they're going to be like looking for it to say or not to say?
I mean, really, I like the label to just say the flour, the salt, and the water. I know that certain places will have, some bakeries, and I believe even there's one at Costco. And you just don't want it to say sour flavoring on it.
Got it. Got it.
Also.
Oh man, that sparked a question, and now I forgot what it was. What is your, of all the 600 types of different varieties of sour, what is your favorite?
Well, I guess my point to that is, I can teach you how to make it using the method I use, right? Which is just measuring the flour in cups, not using a scale, just the simple method of how you maneuver the dough and then just let it rest. But you could go on the internet and follow someone, and it doesn't mean their way isn't right and wonderful. It's just there's so many different ways to maneuver how you make it, and you can have success with almost all of them. I just love the simplicity of this one and the teachability of this one. And I think that's one thing I hear in my classes is, okay, you like dumbed it down to that anyone can do that. And I really do feel like it is just a very basic method. Timing of sourdough is probably the hardest part. It's the timing of everything. It's not really that you're actively touching the dough that much. So,
okay. Is there a certain way you like to, like my mom has made tortillas. She makes she makes all sorts of different things. What is your favorite?
I love making the crackers. That's my absolute favorite thing. So, I always tell people at my class, you can make sourdough, and I just love it. Delicious, warm, with a little bit of butter on it. Like there's nothing better. And I don't need to do much else to it. My best friend in Chicago, she has started putting all these fun things in loaves, and she sends me pictures, and they're beautiful. And I just haven't really done that. But you have something called discard, and you can add that to recipes and make cookies and all these cinnamon rolls. And unfortunately, when you start doing that and adding sugar and other ingredients, obviously you're coming away from the gut health benefits. But the crackers really are very simple, and they are, again, a product that tastes great, but doesn't have the list of all the ingredients that you're going to find on the back of labels of crackers. So that's probably one of my favorite ways to use it, the discard.
I have not heard of the crackers. So I feel like I've been missing out on it my whole life. So I'm going to have to try that. I love it.
We can talk.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I want to make sure that we have time so that everybody knows, how do they find out about your classes? I know I'm going to, on our Back on Track Facebook page, I'm going to be posting a QR code that gets them directly in contact with you. So that way, if they have additional questions, if they're interested in Juice Plus, maybe how to reach out and find about these classes. But for the class part and other ways to contact you, what would you suggest?
So on that QR code, and thank you for posting that, it's obviously a little information about me and obviously a little bit about Juice Plus, and then a great way to reach out to me if you would want to ask a question or schedule a consultation, but also my social media links. So I'm on Instagram as Dietitian Heather K, and it's on there. And then I'm also on Facebook. And I love to just post things about all things wellness. If I make a healthy salad, I love to share what I put in it. Or if I make a new recipe that is yummy, I love to share that. I, of course, share about Juice Plus and sourdough as well. And then I use that to post about our upcoming events. Our team does have a Wellness Warriors Tribe Facebook page, which we use primarily to post about our upcoming events and do some education in there. But also my personal pages are a great way to just find out about any events coming up. And also people can just say, hey, I'm interested in your future events. Keep me on your list type thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Heather, it has been an absolute joy. I really appreciate that. I think I got to learn a little bit, and I imagine everybody else got to also. For those of you who are watching this replay, once again, you can go back to either of our pages. You can find Heather on Facebook or Instagram. But appreciate everyone being here. I hope everyone has a beautiful day. Once again, thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.